And then, let's see. No. 3 dot. I'm recording. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. Nope. Right there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Job. Okay. Okay. So we're all good, everybody? All right. We're going to dismiss my recording. And here I go. So this is APA. So APA is American Psychological Association. It's a citation mainly used for the social sciences. I've also seen it used for medicine. So it's done in criminology. It's also used for nursing. Yeah. And then, I use library sciences using it now. When I was in library school, that was Turabian. And it's a general one. It's a little less specific than other ones. So it's a good introduction to citing. Everyone has the handout with the different styles. That's from the APA style website. So there's other good tips and different things there. And that just gives you a quick, when you have all the papers around you and it's midnight, oh great, I got to cite this book. You can grab that sheet and fill it out. So it's very helpful. Okay. So the APA style, like all of the other ones, regulates the format of the document, what style you use, what font, what the margins are, how you do in-text citations, and then also the end-of-text citations, your reference list. So not all you also are you doing that reference list at the end, but you have to incorporate your quotes into the text, which is something that I had to learn to do with practice and learn different ways and see how other writers do it. So we're going to cover all 3 of those spots. And I'm going to kind of go in that order. My idea is when you sit down to write, and if you can compose at the keyboard, this is how you're tackling it. You're setting up your document, you're setting up your fonts, then you're writing, then you create the reference list. Okay. The basic rule here is always follow your instructor's guidelines. They're grading. They get it. Sometimes they'll use older editions of APA. They haven't gotten to it yet, or it just came out, or different things, but they're grading it. I know that when I was teaching classes, I had a citation style that I used. I chose it deliberately, and I just encouraged people to go with it and give them as much help as possible. So just follow that. Okay. APA has 2 different formats, a student paper and a professional paper. We're sticking with the student paper, but you can find information on that in the book. And we have a copy of it here. This is for Muhammad and I's use. There's one at the Access Services desk. There's also one to check out if you need to do that. Okay. Legal size paper, regular size paper, just like this. And we're not Elwood, so it can't be pink or scented. Bummer. 1-inch margins. Readable typeface. They've loosened this up a little bit with the 7th edition. And as far as I know, this is the latest. So it always had to be Times New Roman. And I always said Times New Roman 12. Now, as long as it's readable, no wingbats or wingdings or whatever it is with the Gothic, no. We need to be able to read it. 10 to 12 font size. I usually start with 12 because I need to fill pages. And then if I need to, once in a while, I've gone smaller because I didn't want to cut this out and I didn't want to cut this out and I didn't want to kill my babies. Double spacing with 1 space after punctuation between sentences. All of us who learned to type in the 20th century are just going, no, 2 spaces, boom, boom. You know, it's 1. So maybe we just won't go quietly into that good night. But numbering pages, your title page begins with your Arabic numeral number 1, right corner. Okay. So this is the title page. Your title is centered in the upper third, upper half. Page number, right corner here. Name, that's your name. Okay, yeah. Name, academic department, course, instructor, and date. And they're all centered there too. Okay. For number, the first page of the text is page 3, because you have 1 for your cover, 2 for your abstract, your third. And on your main page, you center and bold the full text title of the paper there. Remind them when they get lost from the abstract. Double spaced with all sections following each other without a break. Now, what I think they mean here is don't do another return in between your paragraphs. So they don't want that extra space. So you go final paragraph, I'll go Pride and Prejudice. Are the shades of Pemberley to be thus polluted, ? Then you do 1 enter and you tab for your new paragraph, and then you go on. No 2. And as you're typing your papers, because you're doing double speed, just type, enter for a new paragraph. A hard return for the oral typing. So you identify your sources in the paper with either narrative citations or parenthetical inserts. So you either name it in the sentence, or you just put that bracket, author, last name, comma, year of publication. That's one of the things that I learned too. You will learn other ways to do this. Besides Bob said, stated, you will learn as you go along to make that more fluid and stuff. And that's something that it took me a while to do. So don't feel bad. Remember, like Stephen King said, you want to be a good writer, you read, you write, you repeat. And then it will also tell you how to format tables and figures. This is your reference page. Reference is centered. It is now bolded. Your entries are all in alphabetical order by the first author's last name. If you don't have an author, you go by title and you alphabetize that with the first word of the title. Hanging indent, you start at the flush left, and then everything else is indented underneath. And as you're reading along, that hanging indent lets you know when that this is a new entry. I think it's my experience, and I'm assuming it's going to be yours, as you start writing more, you'll learn to see like a reader, how you can get your point across to the reader by looking at how they would see things and interpret things. And you'll also see why things are cited the way they are, so that you as a reader can pick up on the information, and that you don't have to work, okay, is this, no, there's a new paragraph, or this is this, so that you can find things faster and understand it easily as a reader. Double space your reference entries. And I would probably do period, one return, and then go again. There are ways in Microsoft Word to have it do the hanging indent. And we can show you those too as well.
And can I ask one thing?
Yes.
You can use template.
Yes. Yes. You have there's probably templates to download.
Yeah.
One thing what I did is I had an instructor that was very particular about naming the files, the font, the margins. And so I went in there and I did the spacing and the font she wanted and the margins, and then a version of how she wanted the file saved as, to a speed date, so it was like, class, my last name, and then I had template where the assignment name should go. And then I could just open template. Everything was set up. write the assignment, save it as what she needed, and load it up, and I'm ready to go. So that can be a very good way to do it. So then you don't have to, you worry about this once, you open the template and then work from there. Thank you, Mohammed. That's a great point. So let's talk about in-text citations. Okay. So in-text citations help readers locate the source in the reference section of the paper. You have the clue in the text that will take you to the reference list. So either do that parenthetical or narrative. This could be to check your facts, but this could also be as a reader if you had never heard that before. So you want to read the source. Or, this author comes up a lot. Maybe I want to read them too and see them. So that's what they're supposed to do. It's supposed to be an easy way to connect what is in your paper in that particular point to the source. And they do it here by author, last name, and publication date. They also have different ways, if you have multiple authors, if you have titles with the same publication date and the same author, what do you do? The booklet will help you with that. So that allows you to, do your proper citing and not plagiarizing, but also gives the reader a quick way to reference, sometimes even as they're reading. And then they do the parenthetical citation. They don't do the little number. And coming from Chicago, which, and I did use the footnote in note style, you're reading very carefully, and you're all of a sudden you get parentheses, date, year. And you're like, after a while, you'll go, okay, but you'll still be able to follow your train of thought. So that is the parenthetical, like Atkins here. Author, last name, comma, date. And then note they put it at the end of the sentence before the period. So I know which is Atkins. Where does Atkins belong? Atkins belongs with this statement. So this sentence, they did not mention the author. This sentence is the narrative where they do. So that includes the author's name directly in the sentence with the year of publication in parentheses. So we have Atkins suggests, like real life conversation. Well, Atkins says this. Then it follows along that way. And there's different types where you may want to use that. I could see if Atkins was really important. You can tell I got a lot of this from Purdue OWL, which is a very good site for these things. Or you're combining two different people, or you're focusing on one criticism, or you're combining two different authors, or two different things in there, or you're just trying to vary it. You will see a lot of these, like the parentheses for the literature review section. I always wondered when you had to do the literature review section, did you have to say each author every time? They wouldn't. They would have the authors in parentheses. Some of the research is longitudinal, bump, bump. So they don't have to go, well, this and this and this and this and this wrote longitudinally. So there's our parenthetical and our narrative. Okay. So if the source is, your citing includes page numbers, add that information to the citation. And this is one of the things that I was confused about coming from Chicago. Chicago, every time you did the page. And a lot of times in APA, you didn't. So I'm like, well, what's the difference? And I'd have students ask me, what's the difference? So one of the things is like if I have the gun, the ship, and the pin. If I wanted to mention this whole book and talk about the overall theme of the book, or how this, I kind of think the gun, the ship, and the pen kind of falls aligned with guns, germs, and steel for that overview, looking at this technology impacting civilization as a whole, then I could cite the whole book. So if it's that overall view. But if I am looking at a particular quote or a particular section, that's when you use the page numbers. Or you can even do page numbers in the reference list. For example, so I have Rio Grande Valley history readings in. These are, for my viewers, okay. These are individual essays. And if I just wanted to focus on particular individual essays, I would cite them as that individual, work. In the text, if I had quoted from a page, if I did narrative, or in parentheses, I would cite it as that particular author and this particular source in the larger book. So it's tricky. And sometimes I will do page numbers if I want to get to focus on a particular part of it. Like when I was answering this for APA. If I'm talking about a specific section where it tells me do this, it is 20 words, you have to do then I will focus and cite that page. But the easiest way I have, am I discussing the work as a whole, or am I discussing and citing one part of the work? How does that sound? And then you see here how they can, if you don't mention the author, it's all at the end, author, comma, date, comma, P period with a page number. And I'm looking at Muhammad because we've switched places for MLA, and you don't use a comma and you don't use a P. And I remember that. That's a great line. But in the section here, so I know it's, let me go back. Okay. So I can see I'm getting recording. So I have the date there, and then at the end. And again, it's before, good, you can't see it, before the period. So that period tells me this is what goes on before. Because what if you're quoting Atkins here and then Johnson here, and you got to make sure that you don't get them mixed up. That period helps. And then if I'm trying to trace something, Johnson had a really good quote that I want to use, then I need to make sure that I give Johnson the credit. Okay. We okay? Okay. No. Okay. All right. Quoting and paraphrasing. Okay. Quoting, you're doing the direct quote. Son of a moth. Stephanie Pearl McPhee. Versus you're trying to sum up their ideas in your own words. You address them. You put them in there the same way. You have your signal phrase, that's your opening introduction. So you introduce the text, quote, or paraphrase. And then you include the, if you're using parenthetical, and then you cite it at the end. Author, date, page, P period. Quotation periods. If you're using narrative, you still do hung, and then the page at the end. But you need to introduce the quote and place it in context. So Pearl McPhee, I think it was 2009, colorfully incorporates knitting into everyday life with her phrases, her curses, son of a moth. So that would be one place, but you introduce the quote. And then and I was told to elaborate on it. I don't know if you still do that, but if you need to elaborate, especially like if you're doing block quotations, you need to talk about why you put it in there and why you think it's significant in the right way. So yeah, if you're quoting or paraphrasing, introduce it. Okay. All right. So I'm ready for the reference list. While I'm taking a breather, does anyone here have any questions? In-text citations. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So part of this is give yourself time, and then be sure to cite your periods, your different things. And your APA manual Purdue OWL will also tell you what to do when you have two authors, 3 or more authors. The good news is it's consistent for the first mention and the second mention. It used to have one format for the first mention and another format for the subsequent mentions. And there should be a nice table, and then each entry will have a nice color-coded table for you in that. Okay, so we're okay on chat.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Okay, the end of the text, this is the reference list. Now, this is where we all get confused. So I have a basic steps, and we use this for the MLA. I use it for the Chicago. So when the caffeine's worn off, it's 3 o'clock, you're tired, your head's spinning. These are the basic steps you do regardless. You identify the source. What are you looking at? Is it a book? Is it a journal article? Is it an online article? Is it an ebook? Am I just citing a web page? Different things like that. Those factors will impact how you cite it. Then you go to your APA book. You go to Purdue OWL, and you find the citation style or the entry that matches your type. And they will give you, in APA now it's a little table. In your handout, it's an example citation. So you find it that matches up or as close as you can get. Sometimes you have to make educated decisions on what you do. I had a graduate course for graduates, the first one I took, and we had an assignment with Turabian. And we all had to discuss why we cited this way. And it was photocopies. I was right on the border, photocopies. And it was like, first rule, you can't go hunt it down in the catalog. You have to use what you have. They knew we were librarians. No, you can't go hunt down the original source. You have to use what you have. So that will help you. Then you mirror your sample entry, replacing the information in the sample entry with yours. So if I'm doing a book and it says author, comma, a period, period, and I know I have a book by one author, instead of doing author, a period, comma, a period, I'm going to do Pearl McPhee, comma, S period, and then go on with my citation. So those, and then also make sure that you have your hanging indents, make sure they are alphabetized. Pearl McPhee will come before Zimmerman, etc., etc. And though the book will go into a lot more detail than I am now, because this is a lot of information in a short time. And they will help you do this. And as you go along, you will be able to do this on your own, I promise. You'll be able to go, or you'll be able to look and go, no, yes, no. It's just practice. That's all this is. This is the basic structure of a reference. You will see this in all references. Sometimes the source will change. What do you include in a source? Sometimes there'll be more information, but this is it. And it's that format helps too for you when you're, I know I do the author first, that period, and I know I do periods in between all the sections, and I know I do the publication date in parentheses, period. So it's author, publication date, title, and the source. And the source can be the publisher, the source can be the journal. The source could be the larger book if you have an essay from a book or an encyclopedia entry. So the author, who wrote it, who is responsible for it. Sometimes that's a larger organization. You know, this committee's report, you cite it as the committee report and the committee on it. Or you'll cite it as The old statistical abstracts of the United States. I'm sure many people worked on it, but the United States, the Department of Commerce, United States, get the credit for it. So that could be an institution, that could be an individual person, that could be more than one. Publication date, when was the work published? When did it go out? When was it in paper? When was it published online? When did they post that blog post? Title, what's it called? And that sometimes for journals, that could be the article title or the book title. And then your source. Where can I get it? What journal? What publisher? What URL? What's the DOI? Things like that. And note the order, note the periods. That helps you spot APA in the wild. And then you'll also have, if you're missing references, 284 in the book helps you. If I'm missing this, what do I do? If I'm missing this, what do I do? Usually you move on. And you just move everything up. But you may have to turn things around. Like if I don't have an author, but I have a title, it may be title, and then publication date, and then source. But that page there will help you. Okay. Author's last name first, then followed by initials. This is so much easier than Chicago. The first author, you have to do this. In the subsequent, you have to do this. In the notes field, it's this. In the reference field, it's this. It's always this. Stephanie and Isham, comma, S, period, A, period. And then also for the grammarians and you, at least for me, it did. If I have other authors, it's Smith. So you do comma, new letter, period, comma after the period. And in this case, you have the comma ampersand. You know, it's not just, no. And then you do the ampersand before the last author.
There's no space in between those two initials.
No. There shouldn't be there with the AN. Thank you. Good job, Eagle Eye. It should not be a space. I will investigate that. Thank you. Good catch. This one changed, and not in a good way. So sometimes with articles, in the sciences, especially with the sciences, I'm seeing people nod. You will have 20 authors. You will have 30 authors. If you looked it over and said, okay, reword this, you're on the list. And so do I have to, oh, please God, put all 20 authors in my works cited? You have to do it up to 20. And then if there's more than 21, you do 19, you do the ellipses before the final author's name. Now, you don't have to do that in your in-text. I'm sure it's like an et al.
Yeah,
But that's a lot of typing when your caffeine wore off. Okay. Your date of publication is parentheses followed by period. The second citation there could be for a journal. If they go by your months, or if you go by date. I could also see, like, if anybody remembers like Newsweek or Time or Business or Barron's, you can do that as well. I didn't mention why I want you, when you spot it in the wild and these things in the wild, it helps with if you have to find citations in a foreign language. If someone comes up, I know, it ventures from the reference desk. Like, I need to find this citation and it's all in Russian, another language. My Russian is, but if I know the citation style and I know there's a italics for the journal, that's italics. I bet that's a journal type. Copy paste, search for the journal, and then match. So you can find citations in a foreign language if you're familiar with the citation style. And that's one of the appeals of it. So what you do in that case is if you read the language, you're good, or you pray that it's both in English and in that other language. Sometimes that happens. The citation, or they have both, one language and then the other, and then you're good. Otherwise, you got to get creative. The rules for capitalization are really unique. So, first letter of the first word of a title and subtitle. First word after the colon or the dash in the title, and proper nouns. Do not capitalize the first letter of the second word in a hyphenated compound word. Okay. So that first letter in the subtitle after the colon, and all proper nouns. So I have knitting, first word. There's my colon, there's the, and Stephanie Pearl McVie is a person. If you're not knitter, that's the yarn harlot. Okay. Capitalize all major words in journal titles. So Journal of Educational Psychology. And a lot of times that is a clue for me. This is the journal title. This is a book title. Or this is a book title, or this is an article title. It's also sometimes where the citation things get it wrong. If I see an APA citation that Falcon Finder is done, or the databases have done, I go first to the title. That's where I usually catch them. And then I go other places. So first letter after the colon or subtitle, proper nouns. Then you go back and thank you for my elementary teacher who drilled into us proper nouns. Italicized titles of longer works such as books or journals. So at Knits In, Meditations for Women Who Knit Too Much, that's the larger work. And if I wanted to quote a particular meditation, then I'd probably put the page numbers in there, and I would put the meditation name with the magic words in. You'll put Stephanie Pearl McVie, meditation name, no quotation marks, in, and then the larger work. So if I see two titles like that, it gives me a clue. And if I see that word in, two titles and an in, get the big one, get this one, find this one. Boom, it's right in there. Okay. Do I italicize, underline, or put quotes around the shorter works? APA, MLA, you do that, right, Mohammed? You put the quotation marks around the shorter titles, right? Like the journal title, the article title, book title? Or am I confusing my Chicago and APA? Yeah. I'm confusing my Chicago and APA again. Okay. So you can see there, so the Journal of Material Culture, it's in italics. The capitalization is there. Might people see around that? Okay. Who in front of me? I know that's the journal. And then, but the Stitch and Bitch, Cyber Feminism, a third place, and the New Materiality, I know is the article. Oh yes, I am a knitter. How did you know? Sources for a work. This is the title, and you got it. So sources for a work that is part of the greater whole. Is that greater whole or any applicable DOI or URL? So we had that sources section in our original one. That is the greater whole, the greater work. For my journal article, so knitting and weaving artificial muscles, the greater whole is the journal. And then for a book chapter, the greater whole is the whole title. So if I have, the larger work. So the greater whole for this one would be recent studies in Rio Grande Valley history. But I would have as the section, a brief look at citizen opportunist in the Matamoros era during the US-Mexico War, 1846 to 1848. There's my section. But the greater whole is the whole book, and that's my source. For sources of the work that stand alone is the publisher of the work. So for my book, the source here is the publisher, which is W.W. Norton. And you find that on your cover page. You will also find that in your catalog record, publisher : boom, go right in there. The librarians did the hard work for you, but it's a company of this, but it's this. They list 3 locations. So that it is. And then also, so there would be the publisher, and then if there's a DOI, and I'll show you an example of that. Now it said include the DOI of all works that you have a DOI for, regardless of the version you used. I think you have to go hunt down a DOI. Your cataloging record will include a DOI. If you're looking at an ebook, it'll have a DOI. The PDF of an article will have the DOI. I don't think you should have to hunt it down really hard, but if you see it available there, that's when you put it in, because that allows you. URLs should link directly to the cited work. So that's why the DOI is helpful, if it's a web page, directly to the page as much as possible. So that you click it and you go right to it and you don't have to hunt for it. Librarians can hunt for it. A lot of people don't do it or don't know how to do it and get frustrated really easily. I'm used to the old days where there were broken links all the time and you hunted. And then the rule to the end of the period for each section is the DOI URL. So you have what looks like a sentence and you don't end it with punctuation, because the period is not in the DOI, and you don't want them to enter the DOI, the period, if they're transcribing. So you don't have to end it with a punctuation in that case. So basic structure of a book reference: author, date, title of book including subtitle. If it's an edition, that's not the first. If it's the first edition, we're off the hook. Sometimes you will include volume, editor, and translator as well in that, and that should be in parentheses, just like there. Your publisher, you don't have to do city and state anymore. Woohoo! You just do the publisher name. And then your electronic retrieval. So we have the edition, not the first. We have an editor. We have a translator. If they're listed, you cite them. Why are we citing those? Okay. Well, a editor, depending on the work, can do a lot of work on it. They have to read it. They do a lot of different things. Sometimes editors choose different articles for a topic. If you have a book of essays and stuff, and they're going in and they're saying, okay, you do this one, you do this one. This is how we want to organize it. And they're looking at it, and they are putting a lot of heavy work in there. So they get credit for it. Also, sometimes you get this with like classics in literature. Who does the introduction? Who edits the version of the classic that you have from Penguin and does the translation? And translating is a lot of work. So you cite the translator. That's a whole art and different. And I also like to know the translator, because if you're reading something, I've encountered this with War and Peace. There's this edition and translated edition. There's this, but this couple did it and Tolstoy liked it, but they update it and different things like that. So it depends on how you want to look at it. do you want to lose what the author was saying? Can a translation throw something off? So they include it in there. And when I was poking around, I was looking for that particular translation. And then I found another translator. And in the beginning, they will say why they are updating it and translating it and give you all a big thing. And I also have a copy of the Cameron, and it's this thick, and the editor's the translator editing introduction is this thick because they put a lot of work into it. Penguin chooses only the good ones. Not, oh, this is my, no, oh, thank you. Oh, good luck. No, I want someone who has translated this and eats and breathes Italian literature and has the fancy degrees, and you edit the journal. And you've done, okay, that's wonderful, thank you. You know, that can make a little difference as you're more advanced. Okay, publisher who published it, you know, they can have different, like the Norton Critical Edition of War and Peace is different from a regular edition. The Penguin, you know, the Oxford University has the really tiny font, and so I want to avoid that, but I could do a Penguin. So that can help you as well too. Helps you edit a source. University press, you know, popular press, things like that. So your volume, your edition, your different things, and then your electronic retrieval if you have. Okay, so there's my top one. I got two authors, so Major and Jardine are the editors, and then they're in the place. There's your title. Ashgate is your publisher, and there's the DOI, because that's an electronic book. The second one, I didn't have a DOI in the citation. It was the physical book. I don't think a lot of these at this time are recently coming out. And I look at this one as a history major. It's the Yale University Press. So it could be the Yale Monarchs. They have the big Monarch series. They're real big, they're real dense, they're real academic. Whoever wrote it has been writing about this forever, has written about this period forever. It's not me going in there. Phillips there has probably done their whole academic career with Edward. And we'll tell you exactly what's going on with him and Piers Gaveston. So it's very plain and simple there. They've simplified a lot in this new edition, which makes it easier for the citer. Okay, two more. Okay. Journal article, author, date, title, if they add the title of the periodical. This is what gets interesting. It's the volume, the issue, and the pages. And you italicize the volume. There's no space between the issue, the comma, and the pages. And you do use the colon. That threw me off too. And then your electronic retrieval information. They like the DOI. They like the URL. The name of the database can be tricky if you want to use it. How to find it. I would always go DOI or URL. Because if you say EBSCO, okay, Agricola through EBSCO, Academic Search Complete, Business Source Complete through EBSCO, Cinol EBSCO, Eric EBSCO, blah, 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 blah. It can be tricky. Now, there are other ones that are very specific and known for very specific things. And you can go, oh, systematic reviews, yeah, that's the only one, you know, that does it. But at least gives you the clue. Okay, so here we go. Okay. Let's see, and I had a DOI. Nowadays, articles are going to have their DOIs.
What
Sure.
DOI stands for digital object
Identification.
So it's like a ISBN old book.
It is a unique website or unique link for that journal, for that article, for that item, for that book. It does not necessarily guarantee access to it, but you click on this, we'll go straight to it, to its page. So everything with a DOI essentially has its own web page. It does, and it's a unique identifier for that. An ISSN is for International Standard Serial Number, is for the journal. ISBN is for that particular edition of a book. And there's a different ISBN for electronic, and there's different ISBN for paperback. And if there's a new edition, and probably reprinting. So yeah, so the idea is that if you enter that DOI right there in Google or any search engine, you will come up right to the page. Okay, there's my capitalization, and then there it goes. So I don't have a colon, I have a comma. That's another thing. So I go title, comma, there's a comma, and then do a page at the end.
And we don't have to write PP.
No.
No.
And I had a high school English teacher who hated PG, period. Because she goes, no one's pregnant. You're not PG, no one's pregnant. So it is. That's a little tricky too when I was remembering it. And before I started teaching a class, I had to take the class. And that's what got me off.
So 259, page number 259 to
268. And then, so look at the,
We got that, that's 2.
Yep.
But now we have to include it,
Yes.
can't abbreviate anymore, 259 to 68.
I would do it.
Okay, I'm not gonna fight it.
Yeah. I don't know if I would count you off if you don't. I also don't know I don't think they decided to include it because they're real picky or OCD. I'm assuming that they have you do that because there's been issues. You and I can translate that. We know what that means. Some may not. Yeah, and we can double check the book since we're pretty good. I think that's a good point I know, and we've seen that before, and you'll see that before in different,
Insert space.
yes, in different things,
That's
It's not that important, okay. I'll find it afterwards if we need to, but yes, no, it's always been shown that way. Yeah. Okay. Last example, basic structure of a web page or reference. And then, so the author, the name of the group, the date, the title of work, it's the big web, it's in italics, and then the URL. So what I have down here is, so the U.S. marriage and divorce rates by state, 2009 and 2019. It's a nice big graph. But it's part of the U.S. Census Bureau. And they also, a lot of the websites and the government websites will help tell you how to cite it. So even if it's not APA, if they say U.S. Census Bureau, you put U.S. Census Bureau. And then they have the URL right there. And this date here is the updated date or the revised date. So that is the latest edition of it with that date. And in their citations, they want it mentioned. So that's where I came up to it. And this URL will take you straight to that table. Okay. Okay. So we've learned about our paper formats. We've learned about doing it in text, and we've learned about our reference list. The best way for me, I'm old school. The best citation machine can be wrong. RefWorks can be wrong. All of those can be wrong. The best one is your brain and this. And you can have your arguments. So get to know your guide and the basics. Just get to know the basics. And then as you go along, you'll pull other things from it. You don't have to read it, but I would know the basic format, how to use the index, where it's organized. If you do that, and with time and practice, you'll be able to cite things quickly and accurately, probably by the time you're seniors. And you can just go in and go boom, 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 boom. And if you do a citation guide, that allows you to go to the citation and go, this is wrong, and fix everything. I can understand the inclination to copy and paste and save you from trying to hold the book and type, but you double check. At least I, as the instructor, it's your name on it. I have a unit on citing. I'm counting it wrong because it's, no, I gave little points off here and there. I didn't go, you flunked the whole paper. Don't panic. But it is you. Your name's on the paper. What does it say about you? It's also one thing I thought. My name was on there. How do I present myself to the reader? You know, if I have mistakes everywhere and I don't cite anything, what does that mean to the reader? How will that impact my work? So a little practice, a little get to know. If you think you're going to use it for a long time, like through your career, buy a paperback copy, maybe used or different things, and keep it beside you and bookmark everything you need for your health. So with those two. And I'm not going to do the little bit of practice because I've talked long enough. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to ask for last minute questions.
No.
Nope. Okay. How's my group? Okay.
Is there any way to go back to the slide previous and move your cursor over so that
Okay.
Oh,
Let me see if I can remove these.
usually when you put your cursor up there close to your picture, it would disappear.
Okay. This time, no. Okay. Nope.
Now just move the cursor up by your picture up there and just maybe just move your
This one right here.
all the way up to that corner over there and just don't move it again.
Okay.
Yeah, see it goes away.
Okay. So we'll go. Can I go back?
There we go.
There we go. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so if I am referencing something from the website,
Mm-hmm.
the HTTPS,
Mm-hmm.
then all of that is on my
Yes,
website.
the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, usually if you're typing it out and when you go down, it automatically underlines.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's for you, so you gotta tell it not to.
Mm-hmm. You also have it in, yeah, they don't want it underlined. Now you can hyperlink it, but not underline it. Yeah, they say don't. And because they're also looking at the idea that if you're looking at the printed page, what if you're looking at a printed paper?
And sometimes, even though if you copy the URL link,
Mm-hmm.
it will show the whole title,
Mm-hmm.
not the basic. But anyway, it's a link.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can link it in your paper. I just wouldn't underline it. And that looks odd. It's probably with the formatting as well.
Yeah, it's fine, not formats.
Yeah. Yeah, so you would unlink it or remove the underline if you wanted to, because that should be enough for them to copy and paste in if they need to. Paper journals don't do it. Paper sources don't do it. PDF doesn't do it. But if you have the online version of a journal article, then they'll do it. Or they'll hyperlink it with the change of the color. And then you click on the author and then the little citation pops up in a little new window. And you can close it and go on your merry way without losing your train of thought. But they don't want it underlined. Good question. Okay, let me see if I can go. Anything else?
We also have the YouTube, check on the Donagon Library YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So we upload our workshop.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to access, you can simply Google,
Mm-hmm.
check on the Donagon Library, and you'll get that.
Yeah.
And you can see
Yeah, so you'll see this probably by tomorrow morning. And then there's the old ones too. And it also seems like every time I get a haircut, I get to present. And I'm like, oh, it's too short. You cut it too short again. But you also get the ideas of this. And we're thinking about doing smaller sections because this is long.
I attached the library survey. So
Great, yes,
Some students, they already received
great.
that one.
And then you
But
guys have the
they-
papers
Yes.
if you want. That's why I summed up what we did, because it's a question. And please let us know, you know, the good and the
If you
bad.
put anything or-
Yeah. Stop waving your hands, stop putting the book in front of your face, or whatever you need. Muhammad collects them, and he has wonderful timing with breaking it to me gently if there's a problem to do that. Okay, so I am going, since we have no questions and everything, everybody go get lunch. Thank you for my in audience persons with their questions. That was wonderful. And I'm going to end the recording and say goodbye. Bye, everybody. Enjoy this hot weather. It's going to get cold again tomorrow.